We've talked a lot about having a plan, whether you're riding out a storm or evacuating. But we know there are people who may need assistance if there is a hurricane. If you or someone you know is in that situation, Brittany Bagley has the steps you should take now.
Emergency responders are here for you if you need extra help this hurricane season. The State of Texas Emergency Assistance Registry, also known as STEER, is a free resource that gives local emergency management responders information related to your needs during an emergency. Now, you can sign up on steer.texas.gov. That's STEER, STEAR, by hitting the register button. You'll want to do this, especially if you have unique medical needs, a disability, are a senior citizen, need oxygen, have challenges with transportation, or a condition that makes it difficult to evacuate during an emergency. And in some cases, caregivers can also register so that everyone is covered before the storm hits. And first responders know how to help during the storm. And if you're unable to register online right here, you can also call 211 for help. And while it's not a guarantee that you'll receive specific service, it never hurts to let emergency planners know what might be needed in case of an emergency.
Thank you, Brittany. Such an important service, and people need to remember to register every single year.
Yeah, they certainly do. Now, get this. Our region has been hit by 52 federally declared disasters over the past 40 years. Well, this stat is wild. According to FEMA, more than a third of those happened in just the past decade alone.
Now, while the frequency of severe events is increasing, one of the worst hurricanes to hit the Texas Gulf Coast struck more than a century ago. I recently headed down to Galveston to learn more about the 1900 storm. The seawall after the 1900 hurricane was built to 17 feet.
Yes.
But today, it's not 17 feet. How's that?
So it was built 17 feet above mean low tide, which was about 15 feet above high tide. But the seawall was built between 1902 and 1904. Since then, the island has sunk. There's a lot of subsidence or sinking in this part of the world, and also sea levels have risen. So when you combine that, actually the seawall today is only about 12 feet above high tide.
The residents of Galveston who live beyond the seawall feel like it keeps them safe from everything.
There's definitely a local myth that, hey, the worst has already happened, right? It can't get worse than the 1900 storm. We did not have a seawall. The elevation of the island wasn't raised. And so I think there is a complacency here that we're protected from hurricanes by the seawall.
What's fascinating to me is the high water marks in these areas, in these neighborhoods, are higher in Ike than they were in the 1900 storm.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. So on the island, the highest high water mark ever that we've recorded is from the 1900 storm.
And each of these homes has an Ike high water mark.
You know, that's the thing. Galveston embraces our hurricane and flood history, and you can see a lot of high water marks through the city. Every house has a high water mark from Ike. It gives you an idea of what happened during Ike and how vulnerable the community is to flooding.
What is that silver, almost star-looking plaque? This home has a bunch of plaques. What are they for?
Galveston loves its historical markers. We have these diamond-shaped plaques that show if you were a 1900 storm survivor. So every building you see with that diamond-shaped plaque, it was here before the 1900 storm and it survived.
So you'll do walking tours and sometimes driving tours.
This is the one that's really, I think, you know, we're getting into the history of the hurricanes and some of the science as well with what's happened through history. I look at it like where history and science meets. There's a lot of human interest stories.
So what is this spot you're taking me to?
This is interesting. You know, before Hurricane Ike in 2008, the National Hurricane Center associated a hurricane category with a storm surge level. But they stopped doing that after 2008 because Hurricane Ike, Hurricane Katrina, these other massive, geographically massive storms were pushing way more storm surge than you would think so based on their category. But sometime before 2008, they actually put up this sign here on this parking garage at Galveston that showed you how much saltwater flooding you should expect. It just showed that the hurricane category based on wind and the saltwater level, the storm surge, often are not associated with each other. So after Hurricane Ike, they stopped connecting the category with saltwater level.
Dr. Howell, we've come to the end of the tour. Well, tell me a little bit about each storm, if you would. Let's start at the bottom.
So people might say, well, Alicia was a 3. Why was it not pushing more water? It was a lot like Hurricane Beryl in 2024. It was really intensifying right at the last minute, making landfall as a hurricane that produced some wind damage, but not enough time to push a lot of storm surge. Carla, massive, geographically massive storm that hit down the coast. The water levels here, because the landfall was down by Matagorda Bay, over 140 miles south of here, but it was so intense and so large, it pushed a big storm surge here into Galveston Island. 1900 storm, 1915 storm. Again, this was a higher high water mark when we get east of 12th Street, east of the debris dam, but downtown, again, pretty substantial. 1915, also a Cat 4, with producing a pretty big storm surge here on the island. And then Ike, really interesting, Cat 2, maximum sustained winds of 110 miles an hour. But it was so geographically big that it was bringing water in from the harbor for days. And so Galveston actually flooded from the harbor side. And this is the highest high water mark that we'll find in downtown Galveston from Hurricane Ike in 2008.
Wow. The one message that I hope people got out of that is I've heard people tell me, I am not evacuating unless it's a Category 3, a 4, or a 5. And you saw the highest storm surge in Galveston was from Category 2 Ike. And so we have to disassociate what the category is with the impacts.
Like we say, every storm is different. You just don't know what we're going to see.
Every storm is different, and we can learn a lot from past storms. We can also learn a lot from each other. Coming up next, a few more tips from viewers who have weathered hurricanes before.
Yeah, but first, Daniella Guzman has a simple way to know if your freezer thawed and then refroze after a power outage.
I'm Daniella Guzman, and as we get ready for hurricane season, I have a little hack for you. If you have to evacuate for a hurricane and you're worried about your food spoiling in your refrigerator, try this. All you have to do is get a little plastic cup, pour some water in it just like this, stick it in your freezer, right? After it's frozen, just like this, you get a coin and you put it on top. So you stick it in just like this in your freezer, and then you evacuate. When you come back, if this coin is still on top of the ice, that means that you probably did not lose power and your food inside your refrigerator is probably okay. But if that coin is at the bottom of the cup, you likely lost power at some point and this ice thawed out, and you should throw away your food. It's probably not safe to eat. So just think about that. It's really easy, it's cheap. You probably have all this at home. Hope that helps.